There was an incident where a man named Rui's eyes were hit by fragments of ancient jade. He fainted, and when he woke up, he was already in the hospital. When he looked in the mirror in the toilet, Rui was shocked because how could he see clearly even though his eyes were covered with bandages? He could also see through concrete walls, through atomic particles, and see the gold necklace worn by the nurse across the toilet wall. I thought he saw the necklace under it. This experience made him scared, thinking his eyes were hallucinating. Then, when the doctor came to examine him, Rui saw a mole behind his mask. So, to confirm his suspicions, he asked the doctor to remove the mask he was wearing. And sure enough, the mole was indeed above his lips. After the doctor left, Rui was approached by 2 policemen, one of whom was named Fei. He gave him an apple, which turned out to be rotten. The real purpose of the 2 policemen was to ask about what happened at his workplace. It turned out that that night at the pawn shop where Rui worked, there had been a robbery. When entering the building, they thought there were no guards, and because they were surprised there was someone, the robbers shot indiscriminately, destroying several antique collections in the place. Then they immediately ran away, assuming that Rui had been shot dead. And in fact, Rui fainted because his eyes were affected by the effects of antique jade fragments. After leaving the hospital, Rui was fired by the boss of the pawn shop, which meant he would be unemployed. Together with Uncle D, Rui apologized to the boss of the pawn shop for the incident that befell his place of business, because Uncle D was the one who recommended Rui to work for this person. Suddenly, Rui saw white dust sticking to Uncle D's shoes and saw the past, how the dust could stick, and what was done so that it could fall on his shoes. Rui also saw Uncle D's jade, which turned out to be from ancient times, where the maker was still busy stroking the stone. Now Rui is unemployed and is at the base camp with Huang Yu, who is also unemployed. Huang Yu shows an antique family heirloom that he plans to sell to cover his debt. In fact, the item is only a mass-produced item from the factory. But Huang Yu still believes that the object is an expensive item from his family's inheritance. Rui became confident in his abilities and could see everything behind the room. He could even find out the contents of the book without having to open it. The next day, they went to the antique market and Huang Yu tried to sell his belongings. Unfortunately, some sellers refused to buy because they were not valuable, even if there were. They were only valued at 5 yen used for keychains. Suddenly, Rui's eyes saw a bottle gourd. So Rui tried to use his eye ability, which seemed like the object was very special. Rui was interested in asking the price, and the seller asked for 1,000 yen. After bargaining, it was finally bought for only 600 yen. Unexpectedly, a rich businesswoman came with her boyfriend to buy the bottle gourd. They gathered at an antique shop to reach an agreement, and Huang Yu offered a price of 50,000 yen, which made them think this was too expensive. Suddenly, Uncle Da came to check the bottle gourd. The shop owner was surprised by the appearance of this uncle, who turned out to be a history professor at the country's university. According to him, this item could reach 100,000 yen. Hearing this, the rich man did not believe it. How could such a small item be so expensive? To prove it, Uncle D used special oil and gauze. That the item was indeed a historical object from the Guangyu era. Regretful of seeing this, the seller immediately approached and wanted to buy back his item, worth 60,000 yen. However, he was humiliated after the girlfriend of the rich businessman bought it for much more, for 800,000 yen. They left happily because they did not expect that 600 could multiply to 800,000. They returned to the base camp and celebrated by buying lots of the best food and drinks. And according to Huang Yu, Rui's ability could make them rich instantly. So the next day, they went back to hunting for antiques in the market. When in a shop, both of them were told to leave because they were considered poor and had no money and only looked around. So Rui took revenge when someone was going to be cheated with a fake vase made by a manufacturer that was planted in the ground to look like an ancient object.
Sure, the trash is not blue and white personally.
In another place, when Inspector Fei was walking with his friend carrying a bag containing fragments of artifacts that were going to be robbed from Rui's previous workplace, suddenly the robber returned and tried to steal the artifact. Fortunately, the artifact was successfully seized while the robbers managed to escape. After taking revenge by humiliating the owner of the counterfeit goods shop, Rui saw a cup that looked like it was from the royal era. Rui saw this as an opportunity to make money, and the seller asked for 800,000. According to Huang Yu, this price was unreasonable, but Rui insisted on buying it because on the website, items like that were sold at prices ranging from 700,000 to 4 million. And after being bargained for, it was finally released at a price of 590,000. Rui was sure of his decision and took it to Uncle D's house. Unfortunately, the object was a mixture of imitation objects because it had been put together and cooked again with ordinary porcelain, so that it became a trap for inexperienced collectors. According to Uncle D, this was a lot of experience, as much money to buy it. Now they are back to base camp with almost no money, and Rui will learn more to beat the Pangjiayuan antique market. That day, Uncle D gave news that there would be a private auction of antiques in the Pangjiayuan area, so that Rui can continue to learn about the history and heritage of their ancestors. However, Uncle Day advised that the purpose of participating in the auction was only to learn, not to shop. That night, they finally arrived at the location. The first item auctioned was a golden tiger jade, which according to Rui had been repaired and sold for 500,000. The second item auctioned was a painting, which according to the committee was a fake painting copied from Tang Bohu from the Ming Dynasty. Because it was a fake item, none of the participants raised the price. However, Rui was still not sure because in his vision, he saw a strange original painting covered by the front image. So Rui immediately stood up, intending to buy it. Unfortunately, Rui only had 9,000, while the asking price was 12,000. Fortunately, one of the participants, named Boss Ma, donated money because he felt sorry for the young man's interest in insisting on having the fake painting. As a thank you, Rui asked Boss Ma to come to Uncle D's house to see the identification of what he said was a fake item. When he first saw this painting, Uncle D looked disappointed because the name of the plagiarist was written on the painting according to the letters and stamps on the painting, which are signs of counterfeit goods, as well as calligraphy and papers that were indeed copied during the Qianlong Empire of the Ming Dynasty, which indicated that the painting was indeed a fake object. However, in this young man's vision, there was an unnatural part of the painting, and the way it was installed was rolled up mysteriously. Uncle D became confused and took it to be compared with the fake paintings in his collection. Then, when examined, it seemed like another painting appeared behind the visible painting, so the original painting was covered with a fake painting. This is proven by removing the front part so that the original painting will be visible. This method is a method used in ancient times to avoid robbery. And according to Uncle D, the price of this painting is worth 10 million yen. Boss Ma, who realized that this was a rare painting, wanted to buy the painting higher, namely 15 million. However, as a token of gratitude for Boss Ma's kindness, Rui only asked for half the price, namely 5 million, which would be transferred to a bank account. Uncle Da was very impressed because the student he had taught in the history faculty was very intelligent, like the ancient story of Feng Quan. who was given a magical eye that got unlimited wealth and fame. Now they both can be happy again after getting money, and Rui entrusts the money to Huang Yu. Unexpectedly, a rich businessman named Bing Bing contacted him asking to meet to say thank you for selling him a rare object because the object reminded him of his father. When they got home, Bing Bing's boyfriend named Feng approached asking Bing Bing to go home with him but was refused. Then Feng forced and told Rui to get in the car and threatened to stay away from the girl because the business between them was finished. The next day, Rui traveled to Gansu City to attend his brother's wedding. Because the wedding schedule was still a few days away, his friend gave information that an archaeological team from Beijing was excavating an ancient site, and maybe Rui was interested in seeing it. So the next day, this young man immediately went to the location where the archaeological team was doing their work.